Okay, fantastic. So I'm just going to do a little presentation for you guys, and then I'm going to open it up to some discussion, just on what it is that I teach and what it is that I'm interested in teaching, and kind of why I got into it. So for those of you who are interested, Sensory Approach to Manual Therapy is the name of my company. The reason I named it Sensory Approach to Manual Therapy was I've been practicing for almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years this year, actually. And in 2012, I got really interested in trying to understand what what we were doing with our hands. I had been practicing for almost 10 years, and I was still using a lot of the old explanations in massage therapy about why it's effective. And, people would ask me, what are you doing? Why is it helping with my discomfort? And I would give them what I knew at the time to be accurate. Um, but I started coming across sources that were contradicting a lot of things that I had thought were accurate, like, oh, massage therapy helps with circulation. Massage therapy helps with toxin removal. Massage therapy can release tissue and muscles. Like we're doing myofascial release, we're breaking apart adhesions and things like this. And these are all explanations that I'd been giving for a really long time. And I started coming across a lot of science that was going against a lot of the stuff I was explaining. And so I wanted to look into it a little bit more because I was confused. I was at a place a little bit. This is what I was taught. It's what I went to, when I went to school. Why am I being told now that it's different? And not only that, I'm being told it's different, but I'm not being told what is then happening. I'm simply being told that what I used to think is happening is not accurate. Um, and so I spent a lot of time delving into this, years and years and years, to be honest, and I still do it. The more I was delving into what it is that we're doing with our hands and with our clients and the interactions that we have with them, the more I came to this realization that the biggest impact that we have on our clients is through the sensory system. And we might think immediately tactile, since that's our primary mode of practice is through touch. But in reality, what they see when they come in the clinic, what they smell, what they hear, how we speak to them, not only what they hear with volume and sounds like the music, but even the words we use impact the results. And the more we get into the research around this, the more we're seeing bedside manner plays a very important role in the recovery. You can be a great therapist with poor bedside manner and the results aren't present, even though you're doing incredible techniques. And if you do those similar techniques or same ones with great bedside manner, the results seem to be present. So it started making me wonder, it's not that we're doing neuromuscular stuff. It's not that we're doing myofascial release. It's not that we're doing orthopedic care. Even though I'm certified in all those techniques, it was that we were really focusing on the sensory system, and we'd kind of missed it in all of our science. And so I created this program called the Sensory Approach to Manual Therapy, this company. And in it, I teach a class that I'm going to be presenting in North Carolina called How Massage Therapy Works. And so I want to do a little experiment with you all at the moment. So just while you're seated there, laying down, whatever, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to focus on both of your feet with your eyes closed. Just pay attention to them. And when you have a moment, unmute yourself, and you don't have to show the video, but just unmute yourself. And when you know which of your 2 feet is warmer than the other, just let me know, let the group know which foot is warmer than the other. And when you know the answer, when you have an answer, just unmute yourself and let the group know.
My right foot.
My right foot.
Anyone else? That's 2 for the right. Okay. We'll let it go just with that. So 2 for the right. Now, for those of you who didn't answer, hopefully you had one side, you had an answer. The interesting thing is we find in a research study that was done that your feet are the same temperature. But because of the way I phrased that question, I led you to believe that one of your feet was going to be warmer than the other. So the interesting thing about this study that they did was when you decide that one of your feet is warmer than the other, they did studies with very sensitive thermometers in the feet and the soles of the shoes. When you decide that one foot is warmer than the other, that foot actually increases in temperature, which is amazing because prior to thinking it, your feet are the same temperature. So when you think that one foot is warmer than the other, it gets warmer. And the more I started studying massage therapy and the more I started studying interaction between client and therapist relationships, I started realizing that the effectiveness that massage therapy has far less to do with my hand than I thought. It is a valuable tool. It is definitely the tool we use, but it is by far less valuable than what I do with my mouth and what I say and what I do with my ears and what I hear my clients say. And so when I started looking at how massage therapy was treating my clients, I had to step back and move away from what I thought was the most powerful tool in my arsenal, which was my hands, and start looking at a whole bunch of variety of different tools. And when I started looking at all these different variables that affect massage therapy, it really kind of opened my eyes to a whole new world of understanding about neuroscience, synaptic plasticity, the brain, and how it all correlates with touch. And it was quite amazing. And so before I could delve into it even deeper as someone who was interested in science and as an educator, I had to start coming up with an understanding of what is it that we were trying to define. And so if we're going to talk about how massage therapy works in this class in April, we have to understand what it is that we're trying to define. So, there's a group of us here right now, and however many we are, if I ask you what massage therapy is, we will all have a slightly different answer. We'll have similar responses, but they'll be slightly different. And that's important because what is massage therapy helps us understand what we're doing, the more we can define it. And surprisingly, the AMTA does not have a definition for massage therapy, nor does the ABMP, nor does FTSMB. The NCBTMB doesn't even have a definition for massage therapy. And the reason is actually quite simple. Massage is very difficult to define. It's easy to describe, studies have actually been done on this. If you guys are familiar with Anne Blair Kennedy, who's right near you guys, I did a podcast with her in May where she was a guest on my podcast. And we talked about this because that's what her dissertation was, defining massage therapy. And there's a bunch of different definitions. The Registered Massage Therapy Association of Ontario has massage therapy is the manipulation of soft tissue of the body, including muscles, connective tissue, tendons, ligaments, joints. It's a clinically oriented healthcare option that helps alleviate discomfort associated everyday occupational stresses, muscular overuse, and many chronic pain conditions. This is a great definition, but it is not all inclusive. If we look at the National Institute for Health and the Cancer Institute, it's a treatment of soft tissue of the body that are kneaded, rubbed, tapped, or stroked. Very broad. The Mayo Clinic states it as massage therapy is a trained, certified medical practitioner manipulates the soft tissue of your body, muscle, connective tissue, ligaments, tendons, skin, and massage therapists use varying degrees of pressure and movement. This doesn't include cupping. It doesn't include iStem. It doesn't include, vibrational tools. It doesn't include a lot of different types of energy work. And so it becomes very limiting in scope. The Cleveland Clinic has their own. And if we start looking at it, I think last year ABMP published an article, and currently within the massage therapy profession in the US alone, there are 350 separate modalities that fall under the umbrella of massage. So all of a sudden, defining massage therapy becomes very difficult, but it becomes essential to understanding what massage therapy is and how it interacts with our clients. And one of the great things that came up in the research paper that Ann Blair Kennedy did was one of the subjects, they said, massage contains other elements of environment, psychosocial interaction, beyond the mechanical or even neurological inputs of tissue, the input you're doing to the tissue. And this becomes essential to what massage therapy is, because if we look at an old proverb, there's an old Indian proverb about the blind man and the elephant. Some of you may be familiar with it. And it's 6 men from Hindustan. They're all blind, they're all learned, they're all educated. And there's a prince, and the prince has an elephant in front of him, but he's trying to find out if the blind men can figure out what it is. And so the first blind man approaches it, comes up against the side of the elephant and touches it, and it's this large, broad, sturdy side. And he says, an elephant is like a wall, obviously. And the second one approaches it and comes to the tusk, and it sees the sharp, pointy end, and it says, obviously, this is a spear. And the third one approaches it, comes to the trunk and sees it moving in its shape and says, well, obviously, an elephant is very much like a snake. And the fourth one gets to the knee, wide, broad leg, and it says, obviously, an elephant is very much like a tree. The fifth one says, gets to the ear and feels this flapping and feels the wind. Obviously, it's like a fan. And the last one gets the tail and says it's obviously like a rope. Now, the interesting thing with this is there's 6 different individuals trying to describe an elephant. None of them are wrong. They all observed the same creature, an elephant, and yet they each came to a different conclusion. And so the moral of the story is, even though we may all see the same thing, we are all looking at a specific component to it, and we're not stepping away from it and looking at this broad picture. And this is what that quote, this is what the bold writing on the top is. A lot of people have invested thousands and thousands of dollars in learning a specific modality and becoming certified in a specific modality. A lot of speakers and educators have spent thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on curriculum and on reputation. And a good example of this is posture. A lot of people, some of us here probably tonight, probably still do postural analysis and still think posture is this very powerful tool. And the research shows us that there is a very, very, very small correlation between discomfort and posture. No causality. It's not a direct link. And it is quite small. It is not statistically very relevant. But this becomes difficult to look at as a practitioner and say, okay, well, I learned it in school from teachers. I've been practicing this way for X number of years with results. I've been getting results. How is it that I can be so wrong if posture is not the reason for their pain, even though I'm getting results? And it's because we're only looking at either the ear, or we're only looking at the tail or the trunk. We're not stepping back and looking at the big picture of what it is that massage therapy is really doing to the human body and the experience between the client and the therapist. And so when I started thinking about this stuff, I stepped back and I looked in a bigger picture, a wider lens. And I came to this understanding through a lot of different research and the help of a lot of very, very talented people, way, way smarter than me. Michael Ham, Ann Blair Kennedy, Paul Ingram, really, really incredible sources in science and manual therapies. And I kind of came to this broad understanding that these are the 8 points that I've been able to come up with at the moment that really highlight the interaction of how massage therapy works. And it's a mixture of all of them. There's percentages on any given day. Any single one of these components could be the primary reason your client comes in and they're in discomfort. And so when it comes to treatment, we shouldn't be isolating on one. If I look at postural control, postural analysis, that would fall under the terms of biotensegrity, dysfunctional movement, how you move, how you stand. If we look at pain versus touch, we'd go to the pain gait cycle. If we look at the memory of pain, the traumatic experiences, we're looking at memory or behavioral neuroscience. And these are all individual components. If I look at the hemolysis phase, the phases of injury from onset of injury through the inflammation to the bleeding, that's the physiological components. But individually, they all have importance in massage, but none of them are independent of the others. They all interact as a unit. And so when it comes to treatment as a therapist, we should have the ability to highlight any one of these 8 on any given moment based on our client's needs. And we should be able to take these 8 components and mix them together in a single session so that your client walks away with not only a better understanding of their sensory system and their posture or how they move, but that their memories, they're able to journal, or they have resources to move away from the trauma or the behavior, where they know how to do neuroeducation and synaptic plasticity. That's what the PNE is, pain neuroeducation. Pardon me, my cold, my voice. And so the class, How Massage Therapy Works, is we spend the weekend, the 16 hours, taking all these 8 concepts, learning about them individually. Some of them are review, pain gate cycle you probably went over in school, biotensegrity, some of the sensory systems, you probably went over the 5 basic ones, although there are 8 in total. Likely went over the physiological systems, but not so much the pain neuroeducation, the memory, the behavioral neuroscience, and ASMR. Those are likely, if you've learned about those, they were probably away from massage education. And so in our weekend class, we take these 8 concepts, we refresh and study each one of them individually, and then we integrate how to use them in our clients. So there's a lot of hands-on time. I think we do close to 8 to 12 hours of hands-on time in the 16-hour class. And the other 4 to 6 hours, depending on how quickly the class goes, is lecture with experimental labs that are not necessarily on the hands, but more self-reflection, mindfulness studies. And the entire class is based off over 160 different research papers that correlate to how these interact with each other. So that's really how massage therapy works. It's these 8 concepts that we bring together as a unit, as opposed to trying to highlight each individual one and focusing on how to mix them together. So even though the title, How Massage Therapy Works, might sound very introductory, it really isn't. It's for any therapist across the board, from new beginner to veteran and anybody in between, because some of the concepts will be review, some will be very new, but the interaction of all of them together is, I think, my favorite part of how massage therapy works. And so it's just a little bit about me. And if you guys are interested, you can listen to some of my podcasts. If you take a picture of this QR code, you can go to my website, troylevine.com. It's a brand new website. I just made it and I just finished updating it. You guys are the first ones to actually get that name. And you guys can listen to some of my podcasts, see some of the stuff I talk about, see why I talk about it the way I do. And a lot of the stuff I talk about in my podcast, I bring to the class. I just did a podcast yesterday that I'm yet to publish on trauma and massage with an old athlete of mine. And it's going to be a series of 3. This was the athlete. The next one is going to be with a practitioner. And the last one's going to be with a researcher on trauma. And so you guys can listen to some of those. Follow me on social media. I post quite often on Instagram, some of the different research stuff that I'm looking at currently. And I hope that you guys will join us in North Carolina